Serious, what is illegal but most people don't even know it? Under a 1940s anti-poaching law, not only is possessing or selling a bald eagle illegal, possessing any part of a bald eagle, including their feathers, is illegal. Find a bald eagle feather while hiking. Technically, picking that thing up and sticking it in your pocket means a $250,000 fine. Edit, as has been pointed out to me repeatedly, if you belong to a Native American tribe that is enrolled in a federal program that exempts you from the above, you are exempt from the above. In New York, it's illegal to store prescription medication in something that isn't its original packaging clearly labeled with what it contains. Those little weekly pill divider containers, illegal. Also in Norway, things fortified with certain vitamins are illegal. So if you're wondering why it's so fucking hard to get a hold of Vegemite here, it's because the added vitamin C makes it illegal to sell. Having prescription medication but not in the original bottles. Got stopped at a DUI checkpoint. They saw my 4 health condition meds combined into one bottle in the center console. Although my name was on the bottle with a prescription to one of the drugs inside, they confiscated them. I debated it and then they threatened me with a disturbing the peace charge. My only retort was to get a property receipt and then show up at the station the next morning with all of my prescription bottles to match what was in the suspect bottle. Since it was only 1-2 days worth of meds, I didn't waste my time. From UK law, around 1,300. If a whale washes up on the English coast, it belongs to the king and the tail must be given to the queen to make her corset. If male and driving a vehicle, he may stop, in a safe place, in order to urinate behind one of the wheels provided he keeps his right hand on that wheel. Vertical bar. It has been illegal for females to eat chocolate in public. That one got repealed pretty quickly. A pharmacist must allow a pregnant woman to use their toilet, bathroom in US, even if it is not a public one. This is petty, but picking fruit from your neighbor's tree that is on branches sticking over the property line into your yard. In most states in the US, this is not universal, because law varies by state, but I often see people tout the rule that if it crosses the property line, it is yours. In most states, this is wrong, and it is 100% wrong in California. Ownership of a tree, plant, and everything that grows on it is generally established by the location of the trunk. If the trunk is 100% on your neighbor's property, but a branch sticks over the fence to your side, that branch, and any fruit on it, are still the property of your neighbor. If the trunk straddles the property line, you and the neighbor are equal 50-50 owners of the tree and everything on it. You are allowed to trim back any branches to the property line, so they don't project onto your property, provided you don't damage the tree. Anyway, picking fruit off of your neighbor's tree is technically theft, though almost no rational person would complain about this. Having a camera pointed at your neighbor's house that has audio recording capabilities. I'm talking to you, Nest people. The laws vary from state to state, but where I live, capturing the image of someone's house from your property or public property is perfectly legal, pretty much as long as you're not trespassing to obtain an image. It's perfectly legal. However, recording their audio is a totally different matter, and can get you in very serious trouble very quickly if you try to use somebody's recorded voice without them being aware that their voice was being recorded prior to the start of the conversation and/or recording. Rehabilitating orphaned, injured wild animals without a permit. Rehabilitators have to take a pretty difficult test before getting their license. This is to ensure that they are not only providing the correct care, but are also doing so in a way that doesn't domesticate them. Animals in their care must be released within 180 days and will not survive if they have been domesticated during treatment. Too many people use "I rescued it" as an excuse to turn a wild animal into a pet. Oftentimes the animal never needed rescued to begin with, as people will see an unattended baby and assume it has been orphaned. In reality, mom was out feeding and came back to her baby missing. Wild rice harvesting in Minnesota is strictly regulated. It's basically allowed 2 weeks a year and they specify the boat and the tools you're allowed to use. Here's a sample. Flails used to harvest wild rice must be made of round, smooth wood no longer than 30 inches and weigh no more than 1 pound. Flails must be handheld and operated. Don't follow these rules. Any person violating any of the laws or rules pertaining to wild rice is subject to a fine up to $1,000 and/or 90 days in jail. Turning and merging without using your turn signal. Looking at you BMW drivers, also driving in the rain with your windshield wipers on and your headlights off. Looking at you entire state of Oregon. Also, just as an informational, because I didn't hear this till I moved to Oregon, you're not legally allowed to change lanes while going through an intersection. It's actually a pretty stupid thing to do when you think about it. At one point, being in possession of a wire coat hanger, a piece of string, and a shotgun. Now it's moved to something else. I think it's a piece of wire and a particular type of rifle. In the US, being in possession of all of the parts to modify a gun from semi-automatic, 1 trigger pull, greater than 1 bullet, to full automatic, 1 trigger pull, greater than multiple bullets, is illegal, regardless of whether or not you have actually assembled the weapon in that configuration. God help someone who has a metal 3D printer. Blackberry leaf extract has been shown in studies to prevent an insane amount of damage to your skin by the sun. For years I have made my own by putting the leaves in a blender with Everclear or vodka, blending it up and then pouring it through activated charcoal to get the green pigment out. Some asshole patented that process, and now it is technically illegal for me to do that. I probably wouldn't be prosecuted unless I tried to sell it, but still. Something's very wrong with that, like, people have been making herbal extracts since forever. One of my friends studied abroad in the UK, from the US, and didn't realize pepper spray is illegal there until a British student told her. Most female students at our university in the US carry it everywhere, so it didn't even occur to her it would be illegal. No clue how she got through the airport with it in the first place, but luckily she was able to dispose of it without getting in trouble. I'm sure most of you already know this, but it's worth repeating. Even if there isn't a specific law written about it, businesses have the right to enact and enforce their own policies, such as mask requirements. If an employee or owner tells you that you have to leave and you refuse, you are officially trespassing on their property, at which point they have the right to call the police and you are risking being cited or arrested for trespassing. Source: security guard. So I have a beautiful San Pedro cactus in my yard in California. Now if I decide to cut it up and eat it, I could go to jail for a year and be fined $5,000. If I decide to sell it, specifically in small suspicious pieces, I could be charged with selling a Schedule I drug, felony or misdemeanor depending on different factors. If I decide to go to a Native American church and eat it in a bona fide religious ceremony, then it is perfectly legal under the American Indian Religious Freedom Act of 1994. I've never taken hallucinogenic substances like mescaline, but I think it's ridiculous that I can't eat a plant growing in my own damn yard, but Home Depot can sure as hell sell it to me. I'm Texas. Auto law states you are supposed to utilize a center turn lane only to slow down or after exiting a parking lot. using it to come to a complete stop and then use your indicator and wait for an opening. Most people use it to accelerate and get up to speed to merge, or use it far from intersections to skip lines of traffic going straight. You will most likely receive comparative negligence for using the center turn lane as a lane of travel or improperly, and have to pay a portion of your damages. It is illegal to resign your seat if you are elected to the House of Commons in the United Kingdom. It's a holdover from ye olden times, where being elected was seen as serving the public trust, yet you got no pay. If you wanted out, you had 4 choices: serve your term, and decline to stand for re-election, commit gross and flagrant violations of parliamentary rules and procedures, resulting in your expulsion, enter into an office of profit under the crown. In other words, get onto the royal payroll, in which it was believed that you would then be unable to impartially represent the public. Well, the rules changed, and MPs are now paid, but they never changed the laws making it illegal to resign. So, 2 offices have been established solely to enable resignation: Crown Steward and Bailiff of the Manor of Northstead, and Crown Steward and Bailiff of the 3 Chiltern Hundreds of Stoke, Leesborough and Burnham. These offices carry no responsibility, pay no wage, and exist only to enable a Member of Parliament to resign their seat. If more than 2 MPs wish to resign at the same time, the resignations are spread out throughout the day, to enable each resigning member to be appointed to one of these offices. In Michigan, is a felony if you have an affair, but does adultery have any impact on divorce outcomes? Michigan defines adultery as the sexual intercourse of 2 persons, either of whom is married to a third person. Michigan Comp. Laws Section 750.29. Adultery is a felony-level crime in Michigan, but the state will only prosecute it if the innocent spouse files a criminal complaint within a year of the offense. Michigan Comp. Laws Section 750.3031, Michigan Divorce Law. In the U.S., I don't think most people actually know that jaywalking is illegal. Crossing the street outside of designated areas supposedly can incur multiple citations, such as reckless endangerment or disorderly conduct. Not that anyone cares. A more likely not well-known illegal act though: stopping your car in a crosswalk is illegal, especially those mini crosswalks that are between a street light and sidewalk that cross a turning lane. You know the things. Blocking that tiny section of crosswalk is illegal too, like if there's traffic and you're waiting to merge into it but they won't let you in because you also have a red light and yield sign, meaning you have to wait until it's safe to merge. Blocking that barely 10 feet wide crosswalk is illegal. Odds are, pulling through a parking space and using the one in front of you to leave is probably also illegal. It is around me, but again, not that anyone cares, not even cops. It's such a petty crime that they don't want to bother with it. I doubt most cops actually even know most traffic laws for their area. There's so fucking many. Surprise, surprise, parking in any designated fire lane is illegal as well. Not that anyone, not even cops, give a fuck. Surprisingly, cops don't fucking care about most things that they could easily give people tickets for. They could easily hand out tickets like it's the end of the world if they really wanted to. All they'd have to do is hang out near any big grocery store with the parking lot. People will break petty little laws that probably could give them infractions. Yeah, I'm kinda sick and tired of seeing old people park in fire lanes and block crosswalks and park right in front of grocery stores. And then they look at me like I'm the asshole when I walk around their car. I just want to ram their car with a shopping cart. Whoops, sorry, lost control. You know how grocery store shopping carts are. They all have broken wheels. Maybe if you were in an actual designated parking spot I would have been able to regain control before it reached you, but I won't do that. In a town I lived in during college, riding a bicycle on a sidewalk is illegal, and you are actually supposed to be in the street. I think this is common in many places, but I had people yell at me from their cars to get on the sidewalk, and I overheard someone one time say, "I hate when people ride bikes in the street, they should get on the sidewalk." So I informed them that was illegal. Having said all that, I also rode a bicycle home blackout drunk many times during college, and that is illegal as well, but I never got caught for it. Men having sex with men is illegal in Louisiana, as well as several other states, mostly southern, despite anti-sodomy laws being ruled unconstitutional in 2003 by SCOTUS in Lawrence v. Texas. Louisiana never bothered to repeal the law. The law is unenforceable but is still on the books. The result has been confusion from the public and law enforcement regarding the statute, and an avenue for the latter to harass LGBT people. The South sucks. It's illegal in the U.S. by state law, but I think every single state, to give legal advice if you're not a licensed attorney. Most of the laws are written very broadly, so helping your mom read and understand a contract is probably illegal. For instance, generally these laws are only enforced against either people who are pretending to be lawyers, or against actual lawyers who try to practice outside the jurisdiction where they're licensed. California law stating that it is illegal to wash your neighbor's car without their permission. Also, in San Francisco and Long Beach here you cannot store anything other than an automobile in your garage. Edit: this is no longer a law ordinance in Long Beach anymore. The SF1 is for commercial structures only, but at one point it definitely was illegal to use your garage as anything other than a parking spot for your car. People could do stuff like rent out their garage, tax-free. Germany's laws are also kinda weird. There are many self-defense weapons that you are allowed to buy: pepper spray, telescope batons, tasers, but not allowed to carry or use in self-defense. You're only allowed to use them in training exercises. While there are ones you're allowed to use: CS gas, normal batons, tactical flashlights. The fact that you're able to buy weapons that are illegal to use is very confusing. Small side fact: pepper spray is allowed for use to defend yourself from animal attacks. In many states in the U.S., having sex in any position but missionary is illegal. Edit: yes, many sex laws were deemed unconstitutional back in 2005. However, many states' legislatures don't remove them from the books, so there's still statutes in the codes. Hell, here in Virginia, unmarried sex is still technically illegal. $250 fine. Not enforced. Still illegal, technically. Also in Virginia, taxi drivers are not allowed to knowingly take you to a location to have premarital sex. In NC is missionary only and your shades must be drawn. In Minnesota, a man can't fuck a live fish. Not sure if he can fuck a dead one, or if a woman is allowed to fuck a live fish. In the U.S. it's illegal at the federal level to modify your vehicle to bypass emissions equipment, like remove the catalytic converter or DEF system in diesels. The penalties can be stiff if you're caught doing so. Lots of people don't know this, however, and don't realize that it's the reason why not many mechanics who will do the work to bypass emissions don't advertise it. At least that's what I suspect, given how many people, including those on Reddit, who talk about doing the deletions. It's also why manufacturers put in anti-defeat measures to the ICE equipment they produce that requires it. They don't want to be held liable for making it easy for consumers to violate the law. When I was a kid, I was walking home with a friend and he was carrying an empty soda can. He put it in someone's mailbox as we walked past. We giggled about it, and then forgot. A couple months later, the police showed up at his house. Some guy got pictures of him doing it and reported him. They threatened him with like 3 federal crimes, which equated to 10 years in prison and over $1 million in fines. Of course, he was never charged. The police just knew his dad and thought it would be funny to scare the living shit out of him, which it was. But technically, They could have charged him if they'd wanted to. Importing Kinder Surprise eggs to the US from your trip abroad. You won't go to jail, but if you are unlucky and the customs agent is not very lenient, you can face a fine for every egg you tried to smuggle in. According to some sources, the fine per egg could go up to $2,500, but I couldn't find a case where someone was actually fined that much. The most I could find in my 5-minute research was a Canadian woman who got fined $300 Canadian for trying to bring in one egg. I guess in most cases the customs agents will just confiscate the eggs and give you a warning.